guests on the Rolodex, stopping by to talk about some Dynasty Superflex. Everybody, yo, commish is in. It's time to sit down to listen to John McGlynn. Yo, who we trading, who we fading, who we getting off the squad. Knowledge never overrated, playing for number one. And yo, McGlynn is in. It's time to let the fun begin. It's the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with John McGlynn.
Thanks for everybody coming out tonight. This is John McGlynn. This is the Commissioner Evaluation Show. You can find me on X at John McGlynn 75. It's almost halfway through the fantasy football season already. Man, time flies. Let's talk about improving the existing leagues and some commissioner questions sent in by listeners. We'll breeze through some NFL news and rumors, Week 6 injuries, Week 7 waiver wire. We'll review some trades that went down in the Mighty McGlynn home leagues. And finally, we'll evaluate a team to see if it's a fix-me-upper or a terror-downer. So, JT, what is new and exciting since last week's show? You're on mute.
Sorry, I went to the USC Notre Dame game in South Bend. If you've never been to a game there, it's awesome atmosphere. Unbelievable. I was pumped to see Caleb Williams, and the defense dominated him. He looked terrible. The Notre Dame defense looked great. So that was fun. I got to go with a bunch of guys I played high school football with. One of our guys we know has season tickets. He was able to get us some. So we were pumped about that. It was a good weekend, a fun thing. It's been like probably a decade since I've been to a Notre Dame game. So I was pumped about that.
My grandpa had season tickets when I was a kid. So I went to about 5 games a year my entire life. It was I got to see Notre Dame beat Miami 31-30 in the Catholics versus Convicts game. I got a shirt. I got the ticket stub. I went to so many games. And the best part about and most people go to Notre Dame games, and they have the bench seating. The seats are about 1.5 feet long, and my big fat butt doesn't fit on there, especially if you go to like a rainy day game and you get there late. All the people have umbrellas, and they're wearing 3 jackets, and you have 6 inches instead of 1.5 feet, and they don't move, man. They are all the old ladies sitting there. They are parked in there, man. Yeah. You're not getting in your seat. No, there's no way. But
I was laughing. I thought we were going to be freezing cold. We got in there. I'm like, oh no. This is like 80,000 people on top of each other. Like there was no way to be cold. Like everyone, you were literally sitting on top of each other. So it was good. Almost got in a fight, but it was all right. It was all right. Of course, the girls almost got in a fight with a guy. They dumped his drink on accident, but it's all right. We settled things. It was good. We had fun. It was a good time.
We were always in section 21, row 48, seat 28. That was my seat anyway. And I sat right across from Touchdown Jesus. Now they put the extension on the stadium, so you can't see Touchdown Jesus anymore. No seats.
It's just the top. You could just barely see him at the top from where I was sitting.
Garbage. I was like, son of a. So it is what it is. So anyway, Bruce, tell us about yourself, where people could find you on all platforms, what you do in the fantasy football world that makes people want to follow you.
What's going on, guys? My name's Bruce Matson. Thank you for having me on first, and I'm excited to be here. You guys can find me on Twitter at Metric Scout. Basically, YouTube's really going to see a lot of my work at, because I'm pumping out videos, probably about 4 or 5 of them a day almost. Sundays I kind of take off because no one's watching me. They're watching the game. So that's the only time I take off. But YouTube, there's a lot of content from there. Right now I'm doing redraft heavy, waiver wire Monday to Thursday, Friday, Saturday, lineup heavy, and then deep dives on the lesser known waiver wire players as well, just covering them in depth. You can catch my Dynasty or written content over at dynastyleaguefootball.com. The series I'm doing there is Devi, just doing a recap once a month and also doing rankings on the site as well, but mainly the YouTube channel. And then I like to troll a lot on Twitter. Especially on the MMA accounts. So that's really what you're going to find out of me. And you're going to want to follow due to the content coming out on the video side.
Sweet. What's your favorite thing to do in fantasy football world? Like ranking, just podcasting, writing? Like what's your favorite thing to just sit down and do when you got time?
Oh, it's the YouTube channel. It's my baby. I'll die on that thing. I like just watching the numbers and then trying to meticulate the algorithm to make my advantages and then see myself inch up day by day and really just seeing what I can. It's like your baby. You can do whatever you want with it. You can pivot when you want. You don't have anybody telling you what to do or telling you what your content should be like. You create your own standards. You can go with the flow. You can change it up. And you can do a lot of different things with it. It allows you to be very creative and allows you to have all kinds of different avenues and opportunities.
Big fan of doing the YouTube stuff myself. JT, what about you? What's your favorite thing to do?
Yeah, my background's a writer. I always got into writing, sports writing for 2 decades. I really like doing the podcast stuff. Just I like the interaction of talking to people online and throwing ideas back and forth. So podcasting right now is kind of where it's at for me. I still do the rankings. I still do writing. Still do all the stuff over at Fantrax and DLF. Do stuff for both of them. But I like the podcast. I just like to talk to people and kind of see what guys what we're thinking for the week. You know me, I love doing my gambling channel on the Stew with JT Bruce. So I'm always heavy into the college football season as far as college football betting is going, and then the NFL side too. So, and then hockey's just getting going. So now we've been jumping on the hockey.
Buddy, you see the Hawks game last night? It was 3-2.
Absolutely.
They called back half the goals they scored in the whole second and third period. I was like,
dude, they came out to play. They looked good against the Maple Leafs. It was nice.
Yeah. It was good. Bruce, tell me about a day outside of the desk of content creating for you, family, pets, music, hobbies, that kind of stuff. What do you do for fun?
Let's see, hobbies wise, I like to lift weights. I like to watch a lot of MMA. I watch a ton of that. I probably watch a couple fights a day, if not 10 to 20, and then hang out with the family a lot. I got a pet. I got a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. She's a puppy still, and soak up a lot of time with the kids.
There you go. That's I got 4 kids. Half of them are out of the house now, and the other ones are working. So,
oh yeah,
it's a little crazy. What's your favorite food when you're sitting around glued to the TV on Sunday watching Red Zone?
So football for me is just about every day. We got the action throughout the week and college football throughout the week, and then a little bit on Friday night, and then all day Saturday, all day Sunday. I'm very in and out, so I keep my schedule kind of open. Food wise, meats. I'm pretty much a heavy meat eater, so probably from steaks to ribs. A lot of mixture of protein heavy foods, maybe mixing like protein whey or whatever into oats or into yogurt and creating like foods out of that, or maybe even protein ice cream or whatever, just to supplement my workouts and stuff while I'm watching the games.
Sweet. That's I love meats. I love candy. I love donuts. I love beer. I love everything. So I can pretty much, you can put me in any bar, any restaurant, any breakfast place, anywhere, and I could have a good time watching football on an insurance seminar. So I don't, it doesn't matter to me. I'm pretty good. I'm pretty open as far as that stuff goes. So, all right. So let's get this commissioner stuff. First of all, if you have any issues that popped up in your league, tell your commissioner right away so that any scoring, lineup changes, whatever can be resolved ASAP. But make sure your commissioner does not have games scheduled for week 14 when there's still buys in the league. Me and JT were talking before the show about some of the leagues some of the situations or some of the schedules that still have buys in week 14. Most of my leagues have a division playoff in week 1, and then we have the old schedule where you play your division opponents in weeks 2, 3, 4, and then 12, 13, and 14, and playoffs start in week 15. So make sure your commissioner has that changed. Some sites may not let you change the schedule after the season started, but you can make something up. You can do it on a spreadsheet. You can do things like that just to try to do. If your site doesn't let you, you have to accommodate for the situation. But if the site does let you change the schedule, make sure that you don't have buys in the playoffs. That's a humongous situation. So it works out well for everybody. If not, talk about it and vote on it and get it for next year. How many lineup set leagues are you in, Bruce?
I say 15 to 20.
Yeah, that's just not Sunday morning is just such havoc, like trying to set the lineups. And I work, it is midnight shift. I get up and check at 11 o'clock. I check all lineups. And then at 2 o'clock, I get up, check lineups, and then get up for work at like 4:30. It's terrible for a midnight shift guy, but it's all in good fun.
Yeah. So for me, I missed a couple last week because I was too busy helping people with their lineups, because I was up till the buzzer just helping people with theirs in chats and stuff. And then there's just so many leagues and they just all blended together because I was on the computer so much and I just missed them. But you know what? I got to do the good deeds for the people. The
peeps. Well, I charity starts with family as far as I'm concerned. So my family's my teams. I'll take care of them first and the people come after. What's a format that you would encourage everyone to try? Like if they're just in a regular base league, a tight end premium, super flex, what's your favorite newest kind of twist you find in leagues. It could be anything from like carbon copy leagues or stuff like that. What's something that you like playing now?
I like best ball. I'm so strapped with content that best ball is like my main jam, and I'm in a lot of lineup setting leagues, but just the stress it relieves and opens me up to do more things. I just like best ball. I've jumped in so many different leagues with different formats, from Devy to Superflex, that everyone's a little bit different. My favorite one is, I think it's called the Premium Devy or whatever, and we do a 20-round Devy draft every spring, along with, I think, 20 veteran draft, and it started off with a 100-round Devy draft. It's super deep. We're drafting middle schoolers in some rounds. That's my favorite one because you really got to research and you don't know what you're doing most of the time, because I'm talking about the 2026 recruits are already drafted or already on rosters. So you're really having to look at these sketchy websites. You're talking about kids that you should not be drafting, and there's no upside, and you don't even know what's going on with, but you do it anyways, and it gets you excited. Like, there's something different with that I can't really explain. And you're looking at these deep prospects on 247 Sports. They're so down there on the list, and you're starting watching tape on them. There's no chance they're going to do anything in the NFL. You're spending time on them, but it's fun to research. It's different.
Andy Behrens was on here a couple weeks ago, and he's like, Dynasty is like 1% of, like, less than 1% of all fantasy football leagues. Now, you were talking about like grammar school, like high school, junior high kids. That's probably like
it's so amazing. Every time I think I'm in too many crazy leagues, I hear somebody comes up with a league like this, and I'm like, oh man, I think I'm in too many deep Devy leagues, and I'm definitely not one that deep. That's crazy. I love it. That's fantastic.
Yeah. That's going down the rabbit hole and then finding another rabbit hole that you go down that you didn't even expect to see, and then at top of that, like falling down a cliff. Like,
oh yeah,
man, no, wow.
That's just amazing. That's awesome. I love it.
Just a little tip for everybody that plays in leagues with IRs, okay? Just go through all of your lineups, and, just the first thing you do, go down to the very bottom, press the IR button, and see if anybody pops up that's eligible for your IR that you may have missed. Sometimes you skim through your lineup, and you got an extra player just sitting there for the week. If you have 2 or 3 players if you have a 20-man roster, and you have 2 or 3 players eligible for IR, you could put 3 more players that are on your waiver wire on your roster. So now you're playing with a 26-man roster, a 28-man roster instead of a 25-man roster like everybody else has, or a 23-man roster instead of everybody else having a 20-man roster. And they have 3 or 4 IR or out guys sitting on their roster that are absolutely useless to their team the entire week or month or whatever it may be, the 4 weeks of the IR situation. So just, when you get a chance, first thing you do, scroll to the bottom, press IR, and you're like, holy shit, I didn't even know this guy was on IR. Little tips like that, just to keep it going, make your roster as efficient as possible. So speaking of
John,
injuries,
I got a question for you. I got a question for you real quick, because I saw this Jeff Bell posted on X. Do you allow out guys on IR? And I know I'm on the opposite side of you on this. I'm 100% an out guy is allowed to go on IR. I want to see what Bruce thinks about it, because I know you are a big IR only guy. What do you think, Bruce? Do you like when leagues let you put out guys on IR as well, or does it have to be 100% IR designation?
I never really thought of that. I've always been in 100% IR. It just seems like right to me. I can make the case for that. I think I'd rather have IR, straight up be an IR, because I don't know. I think you need some roster manipulation when the injuries hit. I think that the part of that scramble kind of adds to it that I kind of like. I kind of like that feeling that if some guys are hurt, I don't have many spots, but I got to hold them anyways. I got to figure out who to drop, who to pick up for that roster spot to make that lineup. I like that dynamic still.
Every league I'm in is like 25 or deeper rosters, except for like the Fishbowl or something like that. They don't even have IR, and it drives me nuts. But out players is for small redraft rosters when guys are out for a week or so. Dynasty, you can weather the storm with having a guy out for a week, or out for just maybe a week, maybe possibly 2 weeks. Dynasty, when you have 30 men in your roster, that's first thing you got to do when you start your league. If you draft right after the draft, make sure whoever you don't want or somebody that's in the bottom of your roster, get rid of that guy and go on IR and pick up all the IR guys. Pick them up, put them on the IR. Pick up another guy that's not picked up in your league yet. That's on IR right now. Like I did a redraft league with some people around here, and who's on the IR? With Jonathan Taylor and Kyler Murray, So my whole IR is filled. As soon as the league got drafted that night, I went on there and picked up like 7 guys around the IR that are still on the IR. Jonathan Taylor just came off. Alvin Kamara he was suspended, but he was on my roster, But now I have Kyler Murray. I'm not sure when he's coming back, but there's a lot of good players on the IR in these leagues that people forget about drafting during the draft. So check that stuff out. Your IR is to be filled up for a reason. If you have 3 spots, use all 3 spots. Pick up somebody that's on IR, even if you're not going to use them, you don't even like them. You never know if somebody's going to get hurt, who's going to pick them up, or whatever the deal may be. Make sure all your IR spots are filled if possible. It's like having an extra 3 or 4 or 5 or 7 men on your roster instead of just your regular roster. So that's my advice.
Yeah, I'll tell you my complaint. The reason I go for the out, and the reason is you never know when these teams are actually going to put guys on IR. I mean, you had all week, everybody's like Justin Jefferson's going on IR. All week they had him. The Vikings didn't do it all week. They left them as an out the whole week. I had a couple lineups with short rosters, like short benches, and I'm like, I need that spot. I had a ton of Steelers players on bye. I didn't have an extra spot. I needed to pick up a wideout just to fill my roster. It's like Thursday, and I'm like, are they going to put Justin Jefferson on IR, or am I just going to be screwed here and have to drop somebody I don't want to drop? So that's my one complaint. That's the only reason I always push for out as IR is sometimes you never know when these teams, even though the report all week says they're going on IR, they don't officially put them on IR till the end of the week, and you miss all the waiver runs, you miss extra guys they can pick up. So that's my reasoning for why I like to be able to put out guys on IR.
There's nothing worse than sleeper saying this person has been placed on IR, and you go on there, you look, and he's not on IR yet, and then the next day he's still not on IR. It's like he's been on IR. What the hell? Put it on.
Like, why can't I move him? It's like, it drives me crazy. I'm like losing it. I'm like, what? So, and then again, if I was like last week, me, I'm a Steelers fan. I have a million Steelers players. So all my guys were on the bench sitting on bye week. And I'm like, I don't have any extra spots unless I'm going to drop like Pat Freiermuth. And I'm like, I'm not going to drop him. So I'm like, it was killing me all week. I'm just looking. I'm like, is he on IR yet? Is he on IR yet? And all the leagues I had him where I could just put him as out, I didn't have to worry about it. Put him out, went and picked up another wideout, picked up Josh Palmer, played him. I was great.
This is about pain,
that's my complaint.
It's about pain. Watching other people squirm makes this so much more fun.
Oh, yeah.
Well, speaking of pain, let's get to the injuries around the league right now. Quarterback Justin Fields, injury, right thumb dislocation. We don't know what's happened with that. He's still doing some MRIs, some other tests. This could be a week. It could be, a month. They just signed a quarterback today. So, it looks like he's not going to play this week. But, these are all situations to monitor. Josh Allen, we all saw him get tackled a couple times. Somehow, some way, he landed right on his shoulder like 3 plays in a row. I'm like, dude, can't you brace yourself or something? So he got up. They brought him to the tent. All that stuff, and he got past. Ryan Tannehill was a little bit more unlucky. He had an ankle injury that it might take. They're not really sure how long it's going to be, but if it's something serious, it might be a multi-week situation there. Baker Mayfield, left hand injury. He should be back. It's not his non-throwing hand. Jimmy G, back injury. He had to go to the hospital. We don't really know about that either. He's not an IR yet. He's not even out. I don't think he's just in limbo right now. Trevor Lawrence has a knee situation. He might even play. He said they practiced. He went from being out to being a limited in practice. So they have a game this Thursday. That's definitely something to monitor. Any other quarterback situations that you guys know about or can injuries?
I think the injuries, I think you hit most of them. The biggest question is going to be who is going to start behind these guys. Are the Bears going to actually go with Tyson Bagent? Are they going to pick somebody else and play him? Are the Raiders going to go with Aiden O'Connell, or are they going to regress and go back and play Brian Hoyer? That's the problem for me is if you're in some of these super flex or 2 QB leagues, you need to know who the second guy is. And and right now there's a lot of teams that aren't really giving you a heads up of who's going to start if one of these guys doesn't. So that's the big problem now is you got to figure out, do you have that guy in the roster, or do you have to go clear a spot and pick up a third QB from the same team if he's not already in somebody else's roster in case you got to play him this week?
Yeah, I like that Our Lads website. I don't know if you ever saw that. It's got depth charts, but they're just, again, those are not official depth charts, but it does tell you who they have rostered or signed on their team. So it's pretty nice to jump on there every once in a while and kind of look and see. Even Sleeper does a pretty good job with some, but if somebody's on or hurt or on IR, sometimes they don't even show up on Sleeper's depth charts. So go to Our Lads. It's pretty good. It's pretty, I try to use that when I can as far as making decisions on other players. So now we're going to running backs. David Montgomery, Lions. He landed on the ball and he hurt his ribs, and I don't know how long it's going to be for. The test came back negative, so it's just looks like he just kind of. At first, they thought they got knocked the wind out of him, but it ended up being a rib situation. So it might be a week. It's a pain tolerance thing, and we already talked about ribs on this show before. They suck. Christian McCaffrey, right oblique timetable. Yeah, that's I don't. The usage of Christian McCaffrey was in question before. Hopefully, he can make it through the season without any more serious injuries. But right rib oblique, who knows? Kyron Williams ankle sprain. He came back in the game, so he might not be anything serious. Any other running back injuries you guys can think about?
Well, those are ones we just been talking about. I had like certain leagues where CMC and Monty were listed as out, and I have other leagues where they don't even have a question mark next to them yet as a questionable designation. So obviously the league and sites are a little confused about this right now, because I think Monty and CMC on Sleeper were listed as out in all the leagues I had them. But if I went to my fantasy league, neither one of them were listed as out on there. They actually still had projections for those guys. Same thing with Kyron Williams. I had ones where he was listed as out and ones where he wasn't listed as questionable at all. So then you're going to have to monitor these things real close over the next couple of days for sure.
Yeah. Wide receiver Garrett Wilson, Jets, right ankle. He kind of hobbled off the field at the end. He should be okay. Tyreek Hill, left hamstring. He seems to have that all the time. I don't know why. His hamstrings must be made of gold, because he seems to pull them all the time. He goes back in the game, and I don't know. He's immune to hamstring injuries. I think. I don't know how that guy does it, but
he's so fast. He's got a couple extra.
Oh my God. It's ridiculous. He does this all the time, and he's holding his hamstring, comes off the field, and like they gave him an IV and some Gatorade, and he gets back on the field and runs 4.240 down the field and smokes everybody. It's good for him.
He's got rubber bands back there.
Yeah, DK Metcalf, hip. I mean, he should be fine. Laviska Shenault, ankle injury. That he might be out for a couple weeks. We'll see what happens with that. Any other wide receivers I missed or tight ends?
Did you guys see what was up with Alec Pierce? Is he a concussion? I saw him listed as out on a bunch of my sites today, and I didn't see anything about why he was listed as out, and I didn't see anything when I was watching the Colts game.
Did you say Alec Pierce?
Yes.
I thought I read it was a shoulder, that he came out late with a shoulder.
Okay, because he was listed as out on a ton of sites, and I hadn't heard anything until I was going through looking at rosters today, and he was listed out in a ton of spots. So that's why I was wondering if it was like shoulder, knee, concussion. I just hadn't heard anything, so that's good to know.
I forget where I read that at, but I thought I saw shoulder. It might have been on the sidebar of Sleepers where I might have saw it, because I actually did a video with him in it today.
All right. We'll have to monitor that situation too. So, all right, that should be all the injuries. I don't think any big tight end injuries happened this week. So let's get to news and rumors from around the league. We're going to alternate players here. We'll start off with Bruce with the Bears. Can Roschon Johnson carry this team on his back if Fields is out for a long stint?
Yeah, I think he can definitely do so. Prior to his concussion, he was getting a 31.4 opportunity share. That should bump up with Herbert out, who was seeing 12.2 touches per game. And then Herbert was also running 16 routes per game on top of 9.6 routes for Johnson. So we should see that bumped up in the passing game as well. He has good size, adjusted athleticism. He should be able to carry a load. He can do it. We just got to see if he will. That's the thing. Will and can, two different things.
Yeah, he can pass block. He's a goal line back. He can catch out of the backfield. I think he's a 3-down back as far as I'm concerned. He's got to prove that he can do it at the NFL level. He looks like a tank when he's out there, and he's pretty fast too. I mean, he's not a lightning bolt, but when he brings the noise when he catches the ball in the backfield and he goes against linebackers and DBs. I mean, he lets people have it on the way out. So, yes, JT Bengals. Is Joe Mixon the cause of the sputtering offense?
I'm not sure what's going on. I mean, obviously they looked pretty good the last couple weeks, and then they get where they don't look good again. I don't know. I mean, Mixon, if you had Mixon, you were already like up in the air on him, taking him this season. You were just like, you're like, I'm taking him because I'm getting him at a decent cost. I'm out on Mixon personally. I'm just waiting for this season to be done and him to be done. But I don't think you can blame it all on Mixon at this point. The offense is they just don't seem like they're in sync in Cincy.
Yeah. Chris Joel Smith jumps in with a woo. Thanks for joining in, Chris Joel. Appreciate it.
Ric Flair.
Yeah. All right, Bruce, Bills. Is Leonard Fournette the answer to this rushing game if he signed in Buffalo?
I think they're going to add a little bit of dust to that running game if they sign Leonard Fournette. I think he's dust. I think the NFL's said that. I think you can get some goal line carries out of him, but he's going to compete for goal line carries with Latavius Murray. Latavius Murray is getting touches earlier in the season. They were starting to split more with Damian Harris. But Murray, him, committee, just jabroni running backs, just trying to fight for touches.
Yeah. JT, Broncos, is Marvin Mims going to be a big upgrade over Jerry Jeudy when Judy's gone?
I can't figure out what they're doing with Marvin Mims. I like Marvin Mims a ton, and then all of a sudden, he was showing flashes in the last 2 weeks. They forgot he was even on the team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what Sean Payton's doing with him. I like Marvin Mims, but I have a couple shorter leagues, redraft leagues. I had to drop him this week after he basically got no run last week. I'm like, I gotta get someone that's at least going to get in the lineup. I hope they go back to him, but right now it's not looking promising with the way they've used him the last 2 weeks.
I'm like the guy in Braveheart. I'm like, hold.
If you can afford to hold him on your roster, definitely do it. But yeah, man, it's just I have a couple shorter rosters where I needed him to play, and just the fact that they gave him 0 routes just crushed me.
Yeah.
Have you looked at Denver's schedule here coming up? Because their schedule's kind of juicy over the next few weeks. That might create some opportunities. They got some nice matchups that could buoy some production, but you never know. Broncos got to live up on their end.
Huge fan of the word juicy. We're explaining matchups. I love it. Juicy is one of my favorite words.
Juicy,
Bruce.
Moist.
Brown, what are you going forward? Are we going to go Hunter or Jerome Ford? Kareem Hunt or Jerome Ford in his backfield?
I'm rolling with Jerome Ford. I want some gusto in that burst. I want a guy with pop. That's what he's got. He's also getting a 45.8% opportunity share on the season, running 15.8 routes per game. They put him in the slot a little bit. I want that upside. I feel like we got some consistency here. I'm going to roll with Jerome Ford.
Good answer. He's one of my favorite guys in this class. Like one of the favorite featured players anyway. JT Buccaneers. What's your concern level for Rashad White?
I wasn't a Rashad White guy coming into the season. He had some games early on. I've just been waiting for Sean Tucker to get more run in this team. I got offered White for Jordan Addison. I couldn't hit decline fast enough today on that trade from one of our buddies. I'm like, absolutely not. I want Jordan Addison. I don't love Rashad White. I haven't this year. He was getting a little bit of run early, looking good. I'm still, me, waiting for the Sean Tucker breakout. I got a million shares of Sean Tucker. So, and they're not going anyway. I'm holding on him all day long.
Yeah. Did Tim George send you that trade?
It was not. It was another one of the guys that are elite.
All right, very good. No. Okay. Bruce, Cardinals. Did Trey McBride take over this tight end job going forward?
It looks like he's gaining some steam. He outsnapped Ertz 44-35. He's been getting more snaps over the last few weeks, getting more routes as well, getting some opportunities here. The thing about this team is they're a slower paced offense. So you also got Marquise Brown getting a 28.9% target share. So that buoys a lot of the targets. We're also seeing an emergence with Rondale Moore as he's had some targets in the last few games. I think 7 in both, or at least close to that. And the thing about that, he's getting like 1 air yard a game. So he's really getting the targets of the running back since James Conner has been out. So if he hits, it has to be on Yak, but still he's stealing some of that volume over the short to intermediate.
Yeah. JT Chargers. Where's this guy named Quentin Johnson that people promised would be the man if Mike Williams got injured?
He was one of my least favorite guys in this draft coming out. I just was not a huge Quentin Johnson guy. I just saw all kinds of issues. Me and you have him on our team, John, and we tried to trade him the whole preseason. As soon as we had him on our roster, we tried to move him. We couldn't get anything done for him. I'd much rather have Josh Palmer at this point, which is saying something. But I'd much rather have him. I'm not saying that Quentin Johnson can't get it together eventually. I just don't think it's going to be this season. I think he's going to need a couple years to develop, if anything. I just don't see it this year.
Sorry, I don't tell you about every trade I'm making, though, but I did trade him away. I got Roshan Johnson and Sky Moore for Quentin Johnson.
Oh, so. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Nice move. I'll take it. I'll take Roshan all day.
Well, whether you like it or not, he's on our team. So
I'll take it.
Fantastic. All right, Bruce, Chiefs. Would you trade away Roshan Johnson to get Rashee Rice in PPR Dynasty League right now?
I think it's a push. I think it's really depending on preference. I like to have younger running backs. If I'm going to have a younger running back, I'm going to have a younger running back, but I also like to push the liquidity into the wide receiver spot. The thing about this is Rashawn Johnson stepping into a role, and I think that getting more touches might create an opportunity for him to gain some steam, gain some value. I want to hold Rashawn Johnson because if he hits that upside a little bit more, then I can cash out if I want to, or just enjoy the production. And if he just flatlines and say it's just steady production, he was getting 7.7 PPR points per game prior to the concussion. If he gets you like 10 or 11, you're holding steady anyway. So maybe you can make it later if you want to make the deal. But I think I'm going to hold. I think I'm going to roll with Rashawn right now.
Yeah, I'm a huge Rashee Rice fan. I really want him on my team, but guys are just asking for a crazy amount of and there's 15 targets. There's 15 people catching balls in Kansas City. I don't want to water down wide receiver. It's only going to get 4 targets every game for 40 yards, maybe every other game 40 or 60 yards. I think he got 70 yards this game, but man, I can't do it on the Chiefs. If it was somewhere else, I'd probably pull the trigger. But as of right now, I'm just going to keep Roshan because I asked for Rashee Rice and Jonathan Mingo for Roshan, and the guy's like, no, I want that, and I need to add somebody else. I'm like, no, I think that's probably a little bit of a steal on my end, but I'd rather just be safe and have 2 good receivers than Roshan if I'm going to get rid of him because, like you said, his upside, I think he could be worth a lot more than just Rashee Rice and Jonathan Mingo in a couple of weeks if I was a little patient. So yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
JT Colts. When does JT take over this backfield?
Well, if Gardner Minshew keeps throwing picks, my boy Minshew Mania killing me. I thought he was going to look great. He struggled with some bad throws. It's going to be JT and Moss both getting 20 carries a game. If Gardner keeps playing like he is, they're going to have to run the rock every freaking play. Moss has looked good for the most part this year. You can't just completely push him to the side, but obviously they need the explosiveness of JT, and they need this running game. Either one of the guys going, they need this running game to really pick it up so that Gardner's not sitting back there having to make every throw. Play action is where he's going to be at his best, and not forcing throws is when the Colts will be better. So the more they can run with JT and Moss, I think the better it is for the Colts in the long run.
Yeah, I get it. Bruce, Cowboys, how much of a factor does Brandon Cooks have? What does he have to be to get this offense back on track, or Gallup for that matter?
For those two, I think we need some fire downfield on those deep balls, get more consistent, get more conversion on the deep ball attempts. They're both pushing around 11 average depth of target on both of them. 59 air yards a game for Gallup, 52 air yards a game for Brandon Cooks. One of them just has to take over, start winning deep. That way it allows CeeDee Lamb to win underneath, who's getting about an average depth of target of 8 yards or so. So we really need to stretch the field a little bit more, run some 9 routes, some of those wind sprints, and then make a factor downfield and converting some of those catches.
Man, Gallup just drops these passes that go right in the bread box all the time. And then the next play, he makes a circus catch that only him and Jesus Christ can make, on the face of the earth. And it's like, dude, why can't you just catch the ones that are right in your arm? But yesterday he dove in the end zone, which it's not easy to dive and catch a ball too. And maybe there's a defender that swung his hand right in front of the ball, so maybe he got distracted a little bit. But when you got to focus on that ball when you're a professional wide receiver, and that ball hit him right in both wrists. So all you got to do is bring it in and bounce right off him. And he does it every game. He drops 2 or 3 balls like that are right in his hands, and then he makes these crazy circus catches to save the day sometimes. But he's such an aggravator. He could be, if he would just learn how to do those, like 1 or 2 of those, like normal, just bring the ball in kind of catches. I mean, he would be the wide receiver 2 with no doubt on that team. So it's aggravating. I'm a huge Michael Gallup fan, so I just wish that he would just tidy up his mistakes. But JT Dolphins, is Jalen Waddle not 100% healthy yet?
I'm not sure what's going on there. This is like, he busted so many big plays last year, and then so far this year, it's just he hasn't been able to get the big plays. And that's kind of, I mean, he's still been putting up decent stats. They're just not great stats. But for some reason, he just hasn't been able to get those big plays. And I don't know if it is he's just still not 100% or what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't get it. But yeah, your camera's fine.
Okay.
Bruce. All right. So, Bruce, Eagles, DeVonta Smith seems to have been an afterthought since A.J. Brown yelled at Hurts a couple weeks ago. How does he get back on track, and how does Julio Jones fit in this offense now?
All right. So, week 6, he saw 11 targets and 154 air yards. I think it was like top 5 on the weekend air yards. So, he just didn't fire. He had some opportunities. He had 3 games this year of under 10 PPR fantasy points. So, he's had some opportunity in this offense. It's just there's a lot of competition here. We got Goddard, Swift, A.J. Brown, and they're all commanding targets. It's hard to be a wide receiver, too, when you got a running back here with a good target share, tight ends getting targets, and then you got an alpha and A.J. Browns. It's going to be inconsistent. Julio Jones, I imagine it's going to be somewhat comparable to what we saw last year, and it's just going to be off and on, and we're just going to be hoping that he gives us a flash of something, but I don't know. I think it's really going to be the A.J. Brown show. He's the alpha. He's the show in town.
I hope so. JT, Falcons, the team ran, and everyone complained. Now they're throwing 47 attempts by Ritter, and everyone's complaining. What's the solution to this team?
It's like people are so mad that they wouldn't throw, and now they throw, and everybody's like, "Oh, what are you guys doing? Give Bijan the ball." What do you? I mean, it's football. Nobody's ever happy. It depends on what is going on in the game. I think they're going to go back to the run game more. These were a couple anomaly games, of course. I got Ritter on my bench, not playing him at all, even though now all of a sudden he's outscored every one of my other quarterbacks. But I think they'll settle things out. I think you're going to see the Falcons go back to running the ball more. But, as most people like to see, hopefully they'll be about, a little more 50-50 and still get those other guys, get those other guys involved. It just sometimes it comes down to game script and what a team's seeing.
Yes. Bruce, 49ers. The only thing that could beat this team was the injury bug. That was the opinion of many people. Now that the injury bug is here, should the 49ers have been a little less foot on the gas with McCaffrey to start the season?
He was averaging about 22 touches a game, a 65.9% opportunity share. That's high compared to this day's NFL. I mean, there's probably could have been some situations they could have brought in another backer here and there. But honestly, that's the identity of their team, and that's probably how they want to roll. So I think objectively, yes, a little bit, but mostly it's probably fair with the usage. It's probably fair when you look at things objectively. It probably could have slowed it down a little bit, maybe here and there. But again, we're Monday morning quarterbacking it.
Yeah, I just don't like when they give him between the tackles to carries on first down. Mm-hmm. It's like, dude, put a plotter in there or something like that. Why are you beating this guy up? We use him on the out of the backfield catches, like a third down back, and every once in a while, when you got a sweep or something else going on. I don't show your hand of what you're going to do, but at the same time, he doesn't need to be between the tackles getting beat up on a lot of those early down plays. So that's just my opinion. But Giants, if Tyrod Taylor almost beat the Bills, how do you go back to Daniel Jones when he's healthy?
Money, baby. The guy that gives the money is going to play. It don't matter. We've seen this league. You're not seeing anybody in Cleveland like, oh, P.J. Walker just beat the Niners. We got to play P.J. Walker over Deshaun Watson every week. That don't matter. They're going to play the guy that's getting all the money. That's the way it is, especially if you're the Giants and you've looked as bad as you have. I don't think it makes a difference. And again, we've seen week to week. I mean, what is going on? We get P.J. Walker beating Bryce Purdy. We get Zach Wilson beating Jalen Hurts. It's the NFL. It's a crazy game. You just never know what you're going to get. So you can't overreact and say, oh, well, this guy almost beat that guy, or well, they beat this one team was really good. He's got to be the starter the rest of the year. I don't think it works that way for most people in their mind in the NFL.
I get it. Bruce, Jaguars. The Jaguars risk their franchise quarterback on the field versus Saints this week in a non-division, non-conference game, or they just go with C.J. Beathard for this week and just kind of let Lawrence heal?
I think hearing the reports, things are sounding pretty good. I think if things continue that way and those reports are true, he's feeling good, I think they're going to put him out there. I think he's going to get that opportunity. Again, just going to watch the tea leaves there, see what happens. But if he's close to 100%, if he's able to move, have mobility, I think he's going to be out there.
JT Jets, if Zach Wilson could stop holding the ball so long, he'd actually be a pretty decent quarterback. Yes or no?
Well, I think so. That's the issue for a lot of these younger guys. The clock in their head, from college when you have as much time as you have a lot of times compared to the NFL where you've got to get rid of the ball or you got to start moving immediately, you could be all right. So it's like these guys it gets real frustrating because you see it and you're like, oh, this guy better do something quick. And so many of these young quarterbacks are not ready to make a play right away or move. And then they just get blown up because they're just got to make the decision, half a second to a second faster than they are. And I think sometimes that comes with experience. It just takes time to kind of get that natural feel when a guy's coming or when you've been standing back there way too long and you're like, oh, I better get rid of this no matter what because somebody's coming.
He's timing his pocket presence in a sundial instead of a digital watch, so he's got to fix that situation real fast. Yeah. Bruce, Lions, does Jameson Williams add the spark this team needs to win, or is he just going to be a decoy?
I think as a decoy, he is a gadget that creates a spark in this offense because he can get you 70 errors in a game. You got to count for him. That allows Amon-Ra St. Brown to eat underneath. You got Sam Laporta that allows him to do much more underneath. And if you don't count for him with the safeties over top, then he's going to set it loose. And they're going to test him deep a couple times a game. They bring it in. He's going to be up and down. For fantasy, you got that Will Fuller effect where you're going to have that splash week and a bunch of bust weeks. But really, that spark is going to help Amon-Ra, Sam Laporta, maybe even Gibbs, those underneath guys.
Yeah. JT, Packers, if Aaron Jones is still hurt, can Jordan Love handle the load of this team by himself?
Absolutely not. They need Aaron Jones. They need to run the ball, and they need to rely on this defense. Their defense is their number one thing they got. They got to get healthy, but that's how the Packers stay in games this year. Play tough defense, get Aaron Jones the ball. Without Aaron Jones, that's not good. Jordan Love just going back and throwing passes left and right is a recipe for disaster for the Packers.
Yeah, to a bunch of really young wide receivers, that are learning with Jordan Love at the same time. He needs some experience up there, but a guy like Aaron Jones is a key to this offense. Bruce, Panthers, when does Jonathan Mingo finally step up in this offense?
I think as a rookie who's a little bit raw coming out, considering he's getting a lot of workload, I think I'm taking that as a win right now. There's some games where he's getting a 20% target share. He's got 15.3% target share now and running on 74% of the routes and running 34 routes a game. I'm content with that. And considering at that pace, he's getting like 5 to 6 fantasy points per game. With that being said, if you continue to see that much workload, you get some plus matchups, there's going to be a time where he gets you a good run in the box score. You may not be able to predict it. You can probably guess due to the matchup, but there's going to be a couple games where he does something.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. He's one of my favorite rookies anyway coming out. Mm-hmm. JT, Patriots, is Ramondre Stevenson the man again?
Well, we've seen this. When your offense plays bad, there's nothing your running back can do about it. If they're throwing bad, they're playing from behind. The running back's going to be the first guy that gets forgotten. He just is. So I like Stevenson. I'm not giving up on him. It's just this offense has been so horrible. He hasn't had very many opportunities to get the ball in decent situations. So I'm not totally out on Stevenson yet. I like I said, NFL stuff can change week to week. They can still get back in this thing. They can still play decent. I still think he could be a decent fantasy asset.
It was pretty funny seeing him, he ran through the hole like he was about to get exploded by a linebacker. Nobody touched him, and he fell in the end zone. And, to make up for it, he, pretended like he was swimming, he was doing this awesome touchdown dance because he's laying on the floor. It was pretty funny to, watch him.
Hey, you got to go. You got to go with it, man. You just got to make it look good.
It made it look good. It was great. I was super happy. Bruce, Raiders. Michael Mayer will be the only tight end to own going forward in Los Angeles.
So last week, 6 targets, 5 catches, 75 yards, and his snaps are coming up. 81 last week, 66 the week before, and then 51 the week before that. Things are trending up with him. We're monitoring that. Jacoby Myers has been that dude in this offense. He's seeing an elite workload, and you got Devontae Adams there, so that might siphon some of the work because obviously you're going to funnel targets to them. And you got Josh Jacobs, but things are on the upside. Again, rookie tight end, you're going to give them some leeway, some time to develop, be patient. But again, you're seeing some trends that are moving up. So that that's a good thing to see right now.
Yes, it is. I just traded for Michael Mayer with I think Nick, and I got Michael Mayer for Rashad White. I got Michael Mayer and something for Rashad White, which I was pretty happy with. So
that's why he was trying to give me Rashad White for Jordan Addison.
Ah.
Now it makes sense.
Yeah, buddy. I got rid of Rashad White in every league, man. So he cannot get between the tackles. So
I do not have him on one roster in 35 leagues.
JT, Rams, how does Cooper Kupp leave room for Puka to be a bigger part of this offense?
Well, at this point, Kyron's hurt, and this team, I mean, I'm surprised how good the Rams have played so far. I think they're going to end up having to throw the ball all the time. So I think there's going to be plenty of room for Koopa and Puka. I'm surprised how little work Higsby has been getting lately.
Yeah.
Higbee, I expected him to be a little more central part of this offense, especially with Cooper out at the beginning of the year. And he's just kind of really disappeared the last couple of weeks, just not getting a lot of target share. It just kind of seems like he's kind of turned into an afterthought as they're throwing everything deep into the outside. A little surprised about that. I'll be interested to see if he gets back into it. But I think they're going to have to throw a ball enough that I think these wide receivers, I think Puka and Cooper can both can be fantasy relevant for sure.
Yeah, Bruce Ravens, is Lamar Jackson's mid-teen rushing attempts per game a recipe for disaster? Why don't they just trade for a Derrick Henry or sign Fournette or something like that?
So it could be because the more I get contact, the more likelihood I could get hurt. That's the law of contact, I guess. The more I run into a brick wall, if I run into 10 times versus 20, if I hit it 20 times, probably going to get hurt a little bit more likely. However, when it comes to trades with running backs, the market's really finicky and it's really hard to get deals done. Just the demand for the running back position. The Ravens, if you look historically outside of drafting J.K. Dobbins in the second round, you look at those draft picks, they're spending mid-rounders, they're spending late rounders, and you never know. They may like Keaton Mitchell a lot to the point that they're willing to throw him in. They got their jabroni running backs right now. If they add in like a Leonard Fournette, what's the point of adding another jabroni running back off the waiver wire? Just to handle your jabronis and just hope for the best.
Who says jabronis in wrestling? Who's the guy that like invented that saying? It was like in the 80s or 90s or something.
Iron Sheik. He passed away. R.I.P.
Iron Sheik said jabronis?
Yeah.
I don't remember
that.
that.
Rock. Yeah, it was The Rock and then Jabroni. It might have been someone before that, but the Iron Sheik did that.
Yeah,
wow.
Then Rock used it occasionally after that. But yeah, I think Iron Sheik was the first guy to kind of get it using it.
Me and my mom were just talking about this the other day. My brother told me he was like probably like 7 and I was like 12, and he's like, you can't get out of a camel clutch, and I'm like, yeah, I can, dude, whatever. And he got on me, he pulled my neck back, and he's sitting on my back, and now I can't breathe. I'm like, shit, I couldn't roll over to the side, I couldn't get out of this camel clutch, and I'm like, let go. And he's like, no. He's like, you're gonna get up and hit me. I'm like, let go. I'm like, if you don't let go right now, I am gonna hit you. And he wouldn't. He was like, he was afraid to let me go, but the more he kept it on, the more I was getting pissed off. So it was like little childhood stupid stories there. But yes, Iron Sheik, R.I.P. my guy.
Mm-hmm.
JT, Saints, how is this team not scoring more touchdowns?
I'm actually a little surprised. I thought this team was going to be a little bit better offensively. I know they had a defense and they kind of want to rely on the defense, but I thought with Derek Carr and stuff, I thought they would be able to turn it up a little bit more. It's been a little surprising. It was nice to see Olave finally get going last week with a nice game, 7 for 96, is he was kind of been disappeared. And I mean, I had people message me all the time, like, should I trade Olave? I'm like, whoa, no. People are asking like, oh, somebody's offering me Olave. I'm like, go get him. I'm like, I know he hasn't put up great numbers yet, but I was like, I like him. They just haven't been able to get it going. So I don't know if it's just one of those things, new quarterback, new system, like trying to get it all put together. But you would think the Saints offense would start getting a little bit better as the year goes on. I mean, unless they're going to just be blah with Derek Carr. But I think they've got enough talent. This team should be better on offense than they have been.
Right. Speaking of good on offense, Bruce, why is Geno Smith only throwing 5 touchdowns in 5 weeks with this super team?
Looking at this team, they're getting off 63 plays a game on offense, 38 passing plays, which is middle of the road. You also got to think about the defense here. In the beginning of the season, they were giving up passing yards galore, and that's allowing the other team to stay on the field, which it really negates the time for them to be able to get things started. Also, he's he also has 85% of his passes catchable, which is a pretty good clip there, but only 222 completed air yards per game, 28th among quarterbacks. So we're not pushing it downfield that much. Even though DK Metcalf's seeing a 13.5 ADOT and Lockett's seeing a 10.7 ADOT, but the kicker is 15.7% of his targets are going to Jackson Smith-Njigba, seeing a 4 ADOT, which is very, very low. So we're not really pushing it downfield. We're not getting a fast. We do have kind of a fast-paced offense, but we're not getting many opportunities to run a lot of plays. The defense over the course of the season has been on the field a little bit longer due to allowing the passing game to really go through.
Yeah, it's rough. JT, Steelers. Will Najee Harris or Jaylen Warren be the lead back coming out of the bye, or will it just be a rotating door as usual?
They're both going to play. They're going to get both those guys touches. I mean, the issue is I like both those guys. The problem is the O-line has not been great. They haven't been horrible. I'm just worried about just the structure of the running game here. They have guys blocking the most random spots. Their running backs are getting hit every time they touch the ball. It's like they leave defensive ends unblocked constantly. And then they're wondering why their running backs are getting hit 2 yards in the backfield. It doesn't make any sense. They need to change their concept big time. They're leading like small wide receivers like Calvin Austin are coming in motion and then expecting that guy to pick up a defensive end. Yeah. Like there's no way he's going to get mauled. He can't make that block. I don't care who you are. That guy's not going to make that block. And if you think he's going to make that block, you're an idiot for calling that play. You just can't do it. So I think it's a scheme issue for the Steelers because I actually think Warren's talented. I know Najee's getting ungodly hate online this year. Everybody's just ripping him for his scores, and he's not putting up anything fancy-wise. But watching the games, I don't see a lot of it as his fault. He's actually making some nice runs when he has some opportunities. He just is getting hit immediately when he gets the ball. He has no openings at all. Warren's had a little bit better luck just because he's played a lot more when they've been down in games. Mm-hmm. So teams have been kind of playing a little bit more zone, a little more off coverage, and he's been able to have some more big plays. I like both guys. I think they're both talented backs, but Steelers have to figure out their blocking system because right now just the scheme is bad.
That Najee's got a little bit of happy feet behind the line sometimes instead of just getting to the line and finding the hole and going. He gets, it's like, dude.
But I also think it's because he's getting hit constantly that now he's expecting it. So I think that's the issue is now when there is actually a hole right away, instead of him just putting his head down and barreling through it, he's already looking to cut or figure out who he has to juke. And then when that slows you down, because that's the first thing you're thinking of is like, where am I going to get hit from? That's the problem. So that has been an issue with him where he is making kind of cuts in the hole instead of just saying, hey, I need to get 4 yards, put my head down, just get the 4 yards. That's all that's there. I think he's trying to make something happen on too many plays instead of saying, just get what yards are available. And I think that's been a problem for him. Instead of just putting the head down, running as hard as he can, getting the 3 yards, he's trying to make a play in the backfield and he loses 2 yards.
Yeah, and having Calvin Austin block, he's known for speed, not blocking. So yes,
they've been doing well. It's like they traded Chase Claypool, and then also they want Calvin Austin to do what Chase Claypool was doing, running down and blocking ends. It's like those are two vastly different players. Like I love Calvin Austin, but he should never be blocking a defensive lineman or an outside linebacker. He's just never going to be able to make that block. So the fact that they haven't adjusted the scheme to that, it just blows my mind.
Yeah. Bruce, Texans. Did Dameon Pierce lose his starting job this week?
Devin Singletary's been a thorn in his side all year long. He's just too dependable. He's good in pass blocking. You can do a lot with him. He's seeing 35% of the snaps on the season. He's going to have his up and down games. Devin Singletary is going to have his up and down games where he steals the show. This is like a 1A, 1B type deal where Devin Singletary is just going to be a thorn in his side for the whole season because he's good. You got to keep him on the field. CJ Stroud's really good too, so he's slinging it downfield. We don't really need the run game here. He can just he's been impeccable this year. He's been better than advertised.
My buddy Sean traded for him this last week, and we'll talk about it in our home league trades. But I'm like, dude, you jinxed the guy. He didn't throw an interception until you traded for him. Now look what happened. So, JT, Titans. If Tannehill is seriously injured, does trading Hopkins, Henry, and other assets the right thing to do, or do they just go Malik Willis or possibly even Will Levis and just see what they have?
I mean, I think this Titans team thought they had a shot to compete this year, and that's why they made the Hopkins trade. I think this team is bad. I think they're real bad. Tannehill's look terrible. Of course, I'm trying to trade him in every league I have him in, and then he gets hurt again. I'm like, oh, I was just trying to trade him for pennies on the dollar, trying to get something out of him. If they have to play Malik Willis or Will Levis the rest of the year, I think this team is in big trouble. I just think they're no good. I think Henry and Tajay Spears has been the one really bright spot for them. I thought he's looked really good. I think the Titans are in a tough spot. They've got to make a decision, and I have a feeling they're not going to. I have a feeling they're just going to sit there, play everybody this year, try to fight it out, see if they can maybe make a playoff spot, because they probably won't be eliminated in that division until way, way late in the season. I can see them holding on, thinking they can make it, and then having to make a bunch of tough decisions in the offseason.
I'm so pissed. I listened to the echo chamber of Twitter saying to stay away from Tajay Spears. I'm so pissed about it all offseason.
He was a guy I was totally wrong on. I was totally wrong on Tajay Spears. I stayed away from him everywhere, and he's the one guy I felt like I completely missed on in drafts and didn't take.
Absolutely. Bruce, Vikings, now what? Post Justin Jefferson. What does this team do?
So this is what the team's probably going to look like. So with Justin Jefferson last year, this team was 4th in pace of play. This year, they're 2nd, probably top 10 in plays ran per game. That's going to slow down because you got to think about it when you're coming to the line of scrimmage. You got a wide receiver out here who's automatically open every play, so you can get pretty comfortable. And now you lost that. So now when you get to the line of scrimmage, things has to be aligned right. You have to be set right. You have to have players lined up in different spots now. So you're going to have less plays ran, and it's going to be a shade slower. It may not be slow, but it's going to be a shade slower than what we're used to out of this team. So maybe a little bit less coming out of this offense. Jordan Addison should see more opportunities. That should be funneled his way. We just got to see if he can be consistent with that. Olsen's going to get some. I mean, for KJ Watt is going to be getting some opportunities there. Osborne, yeah. And TJ Hawkinson as well. And then Madison sneaking in some touches. Everybody was down on him earlier in the season. Seems like he's been on the comeback lately. I expected it to be a shade slower as they're trying to get things right. That just makes a little bit more sense to me.
Yes. JT, what the WTF? Washington football team. Can we see the rise of Antonio Gibson from the depths of Ron Rivera's clipboard shining brighter in the very near future? You're muted.
Every freaking time, you just totally go, okay, Antonio Gibson's dead. They hate him. Ron Rivera hates him. He's never going to play him again. They're not going to do anything. Then he busts out and does something good, and you're like, that's the guy we love. That's the Antonio Gibson we love. And they refuse to stick with it. He gets a couple good plays, and then you go back next week, and you're all pumped, and then they just forget he's on the roster. It is infuriating.
Hey, Brian Robinson Brian Robinson's doing way better than I gave Brian Robinson credit for.
Brian Robinson, he's another guy I was just like completely out on. I'm like, he's just another dude. I'm like, really? I can't believe this guy's winning the starting role. He's been way more consistent than I ever thought he would be for this team. But they got to change these jerseys. These jerseys are terrible. They killed me last week. They looked great the week before in the black. Oh, they were awful last week. The enemy needs to be the head coach. Get rid of Rivera.
Yes.
Feature Antonio Gibson. Let Howell throw the ball over. And I have to throw this in here because I don't understand what's going on. Why is Jahan Dotson just invisible?
Right.
I can't. I thought he's invisible lately. It blows my mind. I'm not sure why he's getting no looks at all. But, man, I like his talent a lot. I love McLaren, but it's shocking to me how little he's being used right now.
Yeah, just somebody offered me Dotson for Godwin. My Godwin, I want to ship away to get Dotson. It's a dynasty league, and it kind of was, Chris Godwin's only 26, so he's not crazy.
He feels like he's way older than he is.
Yeah.
Godwin's not old, but he feels like he's just been in the league forever.
He plays like a professional, but the problem is another player that gets left out to dry, like DJ Moore gets smoked a couple times last game too. But Chris Godwin, just for some reason, he gets put in and when he plays slot, it's a great position. He gets a lot of targets, a lot of catches. But man, does he get blasted across the middle sometimes? I feel bad for the guy, but it is what it is. Waiver wire for week 8. We're down. That's our news and views, news and rumors from around the league. So let's get to the waiver wire for week 7. Sorry. Be careful about overreacting to any of this, weekly stuff going on. Stick with your guns. Keep on your path. That I guess say that. Believe in what you started the league believing. Quarterback Sam Howell, Commanders. Desmond Ridder, Falcons. Tyrod Taylor, Giants. I'm not sure when Daniel Jones was coming back, so Tyrod Taylor is on there just for the time being. Not that he's a tremendous fantasy asset, but Desmond Ridder is starting to pick up the pace now. Desmond Ridder was not a fantasy asset earlier in the season, but now he's 47 pass attempts last game. And Sam Howell, I've been a Sam Howell fan since the season started, so since day one. So he's always been on my waiver wire. But any other quarterbacks you guys have in mind that you could think about that you might want to throw on the waiver wire now, maybe deep stashes?
Obviously, if you're in a super flex league and you've got any of those guys we talked about injured earlier, you want to maybe think about getting into Aiden O'Connell. You maybe want to think about a Tyson Bagent. You might want to think about picking those guys up. If I'm in a super flex or a 2 QB league, I am known for just stashing QBs. I grab all my backups, my third stringers. Sometimes I'm I just do not want to get stuck not having a guy and not being able to play anyone. So if those guys are out there, go grab them immediately. I have some Tyson Bagent. I grabbed him early in the year, rookie drafts and some deep leagues and stuff, knowing I had Justin Fields. And if he's still out there, go get him. Brian Hoyer, I hate to even mention Brian Hoyer because he's been so horrible. The last 5 starts he's had in relief for people, he's absolutely lost 2 points. So I hope they play Aiden O'Connell instead of Brian Hoyer, because that would be a great week this week. I know, John, I know you're throwing stuff out on X about Aiden O'Connell versus Tyson Bagent. I think it'd be great. Let's see it. Let's see these guys go at it. A former walk-on at a D1 school versus a D2 player. I think it would be absolutely magical. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see the offenses actually blow up behind these guys. We'll see if it happens. But, yeah, you got to have your guys always have your backups. Always have your backups, especially if you're in a 2 QB league. I never can state this enough. Always have the backup and sometimes a third stringer in a 2 QB league because they're like gold. So you got to get those guys. I'm always amazed at teams in my league that have 3 quarterbacks on their roster in a 2 QB or super flex. I'm like, how do you not have backups? I'm like, oh my gosh, it's crazy. Plus, you can always trade those guys away when someone else is desperate for a second or third round draft pick, which is my favorite part. Is I'm like turn around like, oh, you have to have a starter. Bam, PJ Walker, give me a third rounder.
Yes, that's what
that's the best. That's the best time to do it. So you got to have those guys. Got to be ahead of the curves. Here's the other thing I'm going to say with injuries. I think you guys will probably agree. Don't drop somebody good to go pick up a garbage running back because you're desperate in these bye weeks. Just play who you got. If the guy scores you 0, scores you 2, okay, he does. Don't go and drop a really good player asset just to get a filler spot for 1 week. Because you got to realize everybody is in the same spot. There's 6 teams on bye. It's going to be a rough week for everyone. We're going to see some really bad scores win this week. You could be that guy bad score that wins. So don't go and just hedge it and just drop a bunch of players and then be like, oh, I really wish I wouldn't have gave up that guy. Yeah, don't do it. Just go with what you got. Don't get crazy. If you can pick somebody up, great. But don't do anything crazy.
Hi, I'm John McGlynn. I'm in that club. I dropped Tyson Bagent to pick up Amari DeMercado this week, just for the fact of the matter that I was going to pick him up next week after I traded DeMercado away. And I'm like, and somebody picked him up. And now, of course, Field got hurt this week. And I'm like, you son of a bitch. It was
don't
terrible.
Do it.
I usually trade quarterbacks like that away all the time. But, of course, when Fields is playing, nobody's going to trade me for Tyson Bagent. But now he's worth I could have got a third-round pick for him if I would have waited 2 more days or somebody outbid me, And I only bid $10. It wasn't anything crazy. I had a $1,000 budget. So I was like, shit, I wish somebody would just outbid me so I wouldn't have been in a situation. But, yeah, that was me. All right, running backs, Zach Evans, Elijah Mitchell, or Jordan Mason, the combination of 49ers backfield. Craig Reynolds, Lions, Kareem Hunt, Browns, Latavius Murray, Bills. A lot of action in the running back world in the signings last couple hours before the show. I kept getting notifications on Sleeper about them signing this guy and these teams signing that guy. So any other waiver wire running backs you guys can think of?
Keaton Mitchell for the Ravens. I've been saying pick him up the last few weeks. Last few weeks has been an IR spot if you want to utilize that, which you should be. But Keaton Mitchell, we got jabroni running backs there. They ain't been doing anything. He's going to be getting some opportunity if they want to shuffle the board there. He runs 4.3. That could be a good veer there with him and Lamar Jackson. They like him. He's got a 3-year deal. He's a UDFA, made to 53 pretty quickly, showed flash in preseason. Now we got to see what happens, but he's a good stash.
Small UDFA running backs are just it like makes me want to puke to sign on my roster, but it is what it is. I get it. I'm coming around. I like the big guys, that can get the workload and catch a block out of the backfield. I'm coming around to the smaller guys, the smaller guys that are, that
it
are
depends on
shifty
the offense. Yeah, if they're on these RPOs with like Lamar Jackson, you want a guy that's more shifty. You want a smaller guy that can make moves. I just see like Foreman not Foreman. Who the Rams signed this week? Royce Freeman.
Yeah,
like it's like no man, don't waste your pickup on him. Don't waste a waiver wire move on him. Even if he plays, the chances of him scoring more than like 2 or 3 points is like it's bad. Like he's probably not going to do anything. Like it's a waste. You're stretching. Just don't do it. And you just got to remind everybody else is in the same boat as you. We're all out there with no running backs this week. Everybody's hurt. So we're all so you're just going to start a guy against somebody who also doesn't have a guy. So keep all your good players and just hope your best players have monster weeks and carry your team.
Who signed Myles Gaskin today? Was it the Lions or the Packers or somebody? I can't remember who it was, but I saw he got picked up by somebody. I like Myles Gaskin, but I'm not going to drop another backup quarterback to pick up Myles Gaskin. I'm not going to.
The problem is like, are these guys going to get a 1 week start? I mean, some of these guys are like practice squad. Are they actually going to play? Like, same thing with the Rams. Is like Zach Evans actually going to start and play? Like, we don't even know. These teams are like, they signed Darrell Henderson today. Who I mean, I had a ton of Darrell Henderson. I can't believe how bad he fell off. But like, they signed him today. Who knows? Maybe they throw Darrell Henderson in because he knows the system. And he's already played there. So just to say Zach Evans is for sure going to get playing time because he's been there, I'm not sure I believe it.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't want to play any of these guys unless I absolutely have to.
Yeah, the Zach Evans has just been a funny story from his high school days, in college, and in now. Like even his recruiting process, he pretty much gaslit every collegiate program until he just randomly went to TCU. He just really just catfished every school and played around with them. And then I think there was a weird thing about his high school championship game where he like skipped half of it just so he can get a test done real quick so he can leave for college or something. Just a bunch of weird stories about him. And I can see why the NFL is like, yeah, next, we'll let you fall to the 6th round. It's just a bunch of weird stuff. I mean, and then he got hurt that last year at TCU and then pretended he was going to transfer to Deion Sanders, wherever he was at that small Florida school.
Yeah, Jackson State,
Yeah. He reminds me of like Maurice Claret or something like that with the weirdo knucklehead stuff.
Yeah, you get these guys just doing crazy stuff, and then you're like, you can get away with that stuff in high school and even in college at some point, but then the pros, unless you're like the 1% of the 1%, like it just doesn't work in the pros. People they're like push you aside and they're like, we'll just go to the 500 other guys that are almost like similar to you.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, you get to the end there and that's why I've always been out on it. People are like, oh, he's going to get a shot just talent-wise. I'm like, talent-wise, maybe, but he seems like a guy that's just nothing but a problem. And teams hate problems. NFL teams hate problems. And unless you are just an absolute stud, like they don't want to deal with anything with you. If you're an absolute stud, you'll get a million chances. I mean, the NFL's proven that. You will absolutely get a million chances if you're a stud. But I mean, I don't want to start any Rams running back this week unless I just have to. And I get a guy for $1 and I throw him in there. I'm just assuming my second running back in that situation is going to score 0, and I just need my wideouts and my tight end to score me a bunch of points.
Yeah. Wide receiver, Jackson Smith and Jigba from the Seahawks, Rashid Rice from the Chiefs, Curtis Samuel from the Commanders, Rashid Shaheed from the Saints, Wan'Dale Robinson, one of my fan favorites, even though he's a little bit crazy. I'm a big fan of Wan'Dale Robinson. So any of these guys you want to comment on or any other wide receivers you could think of to add to this list?
I'll throw in real quick. Wan'Dale Robinson, I think actually a decent pickup. I mean, the Giants have been a really just hit and miss. No one stepped up at wide receiver for them. I thought Paris Campbell might kind of steal that role coming over from the Colts. Finally been healthy, a little bit of a veteran now. He hasn't really solidified himself. Isaiah Hodgins, that was like a nice story last year, and he's done nothing this year. Wan'Dale Robinson's actually looked kind of good. And he would be the guy, if I took anybody for the Giants right now, he would probably be the guy I would jump on. So, because again, that is a wide open wide receiver room. So I'd rather take a guy that has a shot to actually end up being the number one over anything else. So he's probably the guy. If I'm looking to pick people up, I would. I've got Curtis Samuel in a few spots. Rashid Shaheed, I mean, boomer bust, but man, he gets you some big plays sometimes.
Yeah, I'm going after Rashid Rice in every league, and I'm just like, I can't. People are just not letting him go, and I just think that the Rashid Rice like breakout, and not that it's not like kind of here, but I just feel like he's going to be a star, man.
I got one for the waiver wire, kind of more for deeper redraft. Dynasty should be stashed, but Trey Palmer coming after a bye. We're seeing 7 targets right after that, almost a 20% target share at 18.9%, and had 154 air yards. Mike Evans coming out with that hamstring injury, playing with it. He got some opportunity. This could be a trend. It's a 1-game sample, but it could be a trend down the line. They did come out of a bye. A lot of teams reshuffled the deck coming out of bye weeks, especially with their rookies. And he looked good in preseason and training camp with this team as well. Find the depth chart pretty quick. This could be something coming up. Watch the next few games, see if he keeps trending up. But you might want to pick him up if you're in a deeper league just to see, because things are looking like it's headed somewhere.
Yeah, it's a good call. Tight end Michael Mayer, Raiders. If you don't have him already, you're probably not getting him now. I'm not sure if he's still on the waiver wire, but he will be the pickup this week. Luke Musgrave from the Packers is another rookie tight end that has kind of showed out. Trey McBride, I'm going to talk about him all the time because he's one of my favorite tight ends from the Cardinals. But it's these are young tight ends. McBride's, I think this is his second or third year. I think it's his third year, but I just think he's about to break out somewhere. But any other tight ends you guys can think of? There's a million tight ends who you could just roll the dice on every week. So it's kind of one of those things.
I've kind of said this last couple of weeks. If you don't have Kylan Granson from the Colts, if you're in kind of tight end premium or start 2 tight end league, I think he's a really nice player to have. I just think he's got hurt, but he's a guy that they're using as their number 1 tight end. Jelani Wood's been hurt all year. Molly Cox has been hurt. He's not going to get catches. He's a blocker. So Kylan Granson is by far their number 1 tight end as far as receiving wise. So again, he's a deep league. I mean, if you're in a 10-team league, like no way are you going to have him. But if you're in a bigger league, 12, 14 team, and you can play extra tight ends and the premium's pretty good, he's a guy I've been playing in a lot of leagues the last few weeks just because he will get catches.
I have a 12-team, 30-man roster with 1 tight end, and it's Kylan Granson. I started him every week so far. It's been like, yes, I got so lucky. This is awesome.
He's solid. He's not going to give you any 30-point games, but he's going to give you some solid production.
Yeah,
especially if you have a tight end premium at all. He's been really solid. They really like him. He's on his 3rd year out of SMU. That's usually typically when tight ends break out in the NFL is year 3. They've kind of pulled together, and they have held him and held him and held them. Even though they've had a million tight ends on the roster, the Colts really like him. They really do. I think he's going to be a fixture for years to come in Indy. He's a guy I'm grabbing everywhere if he's still out there for sure.
Good call, JT.
What I like to do with the tight end spot, and I do this with a lot of my hedges with my lineups, is I just look at the over-unders, I look at the spreads, and then knowing that the worst teams in the league, points per game, allowing points to tight ends is like 11 to 12 at the worst. I just look at the spreads and I try to play the matchups, and just if I have to play the hurt business off the waiver wire, I'll just go to that matchup for the week, go to that 50 over-under point total, see if I can grab somebody from there. If not, go to the 49, go to the 48. Work my way down, because a lot of times there's just circumstances that I can't account for. And a lot of times, or most weeks, the tight end 25 isn't too far off from the tight end 8, and the tight end 8 isn't too far off from the tight end 2. So It's like I'm just really just going to just guess here with the projected point totals.
And if you're in leagues who still haven't got on the Logan Thomas train, jump on Logan Thomas for the Commanders.
Man,
I mean, I've got him in a ton of leagues, especially any league I have Sam Howell. I have Logan Thomas as my stack. So he's a great look for Logan Thomas. And just deeper leagues. I wouldn't do it in redraft leagues, but if you're in a fancy league that's dynasty that has tight ends and like tight ends get really nice points, Daniel Bellinger for the New York Giants. Waller keeps getting hurt. Anytime Bellinger plays, he scores. The guy doesn't get huge volume, but he gets touchdowns. He gets something. So Daniel Bellinger, old San Diego State tight end, he's my guy. I'm stashing everywhere because whenever Waller gets hurt, he's going to get action.
every league I have Waller in. That's the only. I mean, talk about a terrible tight end position. Take a terrible position to have a handcuff in. But I have Bellinger in every league I have Waller in, and that's probably 7 or 8 leagues. So yes, I agree with that, JT. Good calls, both of you guys. All right, so then we had some. I have the Mighty McGlynn Dynasty Home Leagues with JT as a part of them, along with the leagues I run. These are 12-team, 30-man deep rosters, no kicker, no defense, PPR, tight end premium point, 7.5, 5 2-touchdown interceptions, and 100 6-point bonuses for 100 yards, receiving, rushing, 300 yards passing, stuff like that. So I got the first trade was Gardner Minshew for a 24th third. It'll be an early third. Who do you think won that? Because Gardner Minshew is for this year, it looks like he's going to have the job the rest of the season. So is it worth a third round pick? Would you send away an early third to get Gardner Minshew? JT, you first.
Yes. For me in super flex leagues, if you're looking at a guy who's a backup, who's going to start a majority of the season, most of my leagues, a third rounder is where it's at. You got to pay at least a third. If this is a 2 QB league, you got to pay at least a second, at least a late second, if he's going to start most of the season. So I think that's right on price. That's perfect price point. I'm trading that. If I need Minshew, I have no problem giving him a third. If I'm on the other side, I don't need Minshew. I want draft picks. A third, I feel like, is right where it needs to be.
Yeah, an early third on top of that. Bruce, same thing?
Same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Amari DiMercato for late 24 fourth.
Give me the fourth. I want the liquidity. I'll just take the liquidity. He's a running back. I can just get another running back off waivers and just hope for 5 fantasy points like I'm going to get from DiMercato.
Yeah, JT seems to be in.
I always like draft picks. I feel like I draft really well, so I'd rather have draft picks in this situation.
Man, fourth just seemed like such a waste of time. At the same time, so
it always seems a waste, dude. You know how many good tight ends and awesome like late 1-round wide receivers I get in the fourth? You get so many sneaky players in. I love it. Give me all your 4th-round draft picks.
Also, with the fourth, that allows you to move up in drafts, or you can funnel it back to the next year. The liquidity gives you more flexibility.
Yeah, you have to have room for them, though. That's the problem. Usually, when you got, if you're rebuilding, you already have first, seconds, thirds, a couple. Then you got like 3 or 4 fourths or fifths, and you're like, shit, man. Now I got 16 people to import on my team, and I already have 37 players with my IR filled. It's like shit.
Well, Bruce, for you, John hates draft picks. He always trades them away, so that's part of the problem. He's like a fourth. He's like, I wouldn't even keep a second. He trades all his draft picks away. So.
What is like a 20% hit rate for a first rounder to begin with? A second round pick's like 8% or 6% or something. Fourth round pick is probably you probably have negative odds keeping a 4th round draft pick than you do for.
I usually move around the board and stuff though, like Monopoly. So I kind of use it like that, or in season the next year or something.
I am a trade motherfucker at the draft day, so that's definitely that's the only time I care about draft picks is on draft day. So, all right, another Amari DiMercato trade for Logan Thomas, middle of the fourth, both these teams are like kind of middle of the road, nobody's special, but which side do you want there? Tight end premium league, obviously. I would take the Logan Thomas.
Thomas, Thomas.
Yeah, that was a good trade for that guy. Okay, here's one that kind of when this trade was happening, I was like, son of a. I would have gave more for this, but Garrett Wilson and Sam Howell for CJ Stroud.
Ooh, that's spicy.
2 QB, right?
Yeah, super flex dynasty, yes.
CJ Stroud, he's super Stroud. His price
that's
can't
tough.
get much higher.
I love me some Sam Howell. I love Sam Howell, but man, I kind of think C.J. Stroud might be the way to go there, even with the Garrett Wilson. I kind of think C.J. Stroud long
Because you
term.
get Stroud and funnel him out to other things later in the next few weeks and get even more value out of that.
I mean, that's a toughie. That's pretty even, but I'm leaning Stroud just a hair there.
When this went
And
through,
you know me, I love Owl.
Howell and Stroud score almost the same amount of points. To throw in Garrett Wilson, which is not a throw in, he's an awesome dynasty asset. Like this one, I was like, come on.
But you also got to go Stroud top 5 pick versus Howell 5th rounder. The NFL is going to definitely give Stroud way more time to develop than they are Howell.
I'm looking at a 2-year window, not in 2037 when Stroud's is, in his middle of his 30s. Like I'm not, I'm looking for right now. I mean, I feel like in the next 2 years, I think that Sam Howell and C.J. Stroud are going to score pretty close to the same amount of fantasy points. And Garrett Wilson, if Rodgers does come back next year, this is just a, like a complete blowout on the Garrett Wilson side. But I get it. I think it's obviously Stroud is going to have a longer leash.
I don't know. I don't hate it. The Howell. I don't hate Howell Garrett. I mean, I'm leaning a little more Stroud, but like again, if you needed wide receiver help, I don't hate for this year and next year Howell and Garrett Wilson. I mean, I don't think that's a smash by any means. I think that's a pretty close trade. I say Stroud long term, Howell, Garrett Wilson short term.
Yeah, I think of it more of a market standpoint, though. Like, I feel like the market's going to overcorrect with Stroud, and I think the price is going to be too hot. And once that price gets too hot, I think you might be able to go Howell, Garrett, and even more later on down the road. I think it's going to overcorrect because I know how this market does. We see it on Twitter, X, or whatever. We see it. I mean, your league may be different, or all leagues are different, but I want to play that, and then go get more.
Good for you guys.
I like it, but I agree with Bruce. I think Stroud is going to just get worth more. People are into him. He's looking better. It's already just the first year. I see his value really, really going up.
I think he's been so impressive so early in his career that people are just kind of overreacting that he's going to be turning to Superman or be a top 5 asset. And I don't think he's ever going to be a Trevor Lawrence or that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I get it. So
I want to be a fantasy football narcissist and take advantage of that and capitalize.
Yeah. I like building my team, and I'm not the guy who I like selling like middle of the road assets and lower assets and combining them together to tier up and things like that, but I'm not a big fan of. I like keeping players once they're good on my team for a couple of years until I don't mind letting people die on my team or getting close to die and then trade them for picks when I'm ready to retire. But most of the middle of the road assets I'll trade away. So excuse me, Logan Thomas for Gardner Minshew. This is a Superflex tight end premium league.
That feels pretty even depending on what you need. If you're quarterback desperate, I can say absolutely make that trade for Gardner. Usually I figure a tight end compared to quarterback, Superflex quarterback's always going to win, especially if he's going to start the rest of the year. But I can see also if Gardner's your 4th QB, and you need tight end, I can see you making that trade. So I could see it either way.
That was the case where somebody was rich at quarterback and the other guy was rich at tight end, and they just kind of shook hands and spit on their hands, shook hands, and called it a day. That kind of thing. So. It was a nice trade for both teams. Sometimes it just works out for people. Even if you lose a trade and it works out for your team, it doesn't really matter to me. It is what it is. So
I always tell people, don't worry about losing a trade. I feel like there's way too many people out there worried about losing a trade and looking bad. And I'm like, just make the trade that you want. Do what's best for your team, even if everybody on the outside looks in and says, oh, you lost that trade. If you like the trade, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Greg Dulcich for Amari DiMercato and Keontae Ingram.
Dulcich all day, every day. Yep.
Yes, that's my trade. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I couldn't wait to get these guys out of my lineup. As soon as I picked up.
How did you get Dulcich for that? You love Dulcich. How did you make that move?
Dulcich because I wrote Dulcich a letter and said you need to be on more teams of mine. That's what happened. So he, applied. He whispered in the owner's ear and said, "Hey, I need to be on Fat John McGlynn's team." That's what happened. But I picked up Amari DiMercato.
I can't believe you got him for that. That was a great move by you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate when I make good moves. They don't happen very often, so I'll take the credit for it when they do. So. All right, that's all the trades that happened last week in the Mighty McGlynn Dynasty Home Leagues. Every week we try to cover those, and every week we do a team evaluation. So We do a Mighty McGlynn home league team to decide if it's a simple rebuild or a remodel or a full-scale rebuild. These are 12-team, 30-man deep rosters. I sent both of you guys a team earlier today about which, how to look at where it needs to be. It's a super flex 5-2 interception touchdown. It's a tiered PPR, half point for wide receiver, full point for running back, and a 1.5 for tight end. What is this team biggest needs? When you look at this team, what direction do you think he should go and why? Is this a trade for future picks or just go for the ship, or is it lose a couple more games and I'll throw in the towel kind of rebuild, rebuild on the quarterbacks? Or this team is currently 2-3-1. They're third in the bottom of points for, so they're real close to being the worst team in the league as far as points for. Probably not making the playoffs from what it looks like right now, from where they're at. He's got all of his picks in 2024, minus a second going forward, and everything on 2025, all that stuff. He's got all those. So who are you trading to rebuild, or who are you keeping to contend? What are you trading away? This is the I'll go to the team right now. Let me make sure it's up there so I don't. So here is the team. It is quarterback Jalen Hurts, running backs Gus Edward and Zeke Elliott, wide receivers Zay Flowers, Calvin Ridley, and Jerry Jeudy. Tight end Darren Waller. Wide receivers are my flex spots are Tyler Lockett and T. Higgins, and then Minshew's the super flex quarterback. Then get to the bench. He's got Clayton Tune, JT's guy, Marcus Mariota, Trevor Siemian, Mr. Biscuit, Mitch Trubisky, Deshaun Watson. If he ever plays again, that'd be great at some point in time. Leonard Fournette, Raheem Blackshear, Tank Bigsby, DJ Chark, Mecole Hardman, Isaiah Hodgins, we talked about earlier, Nico Collins, who's having a great year, Elijah Moore, I don't know when he's going to start playing, Tyler Higbee, who we also talked about a little bit under the radar this year, Gerald Everett, big fan of Gerald Everett's, and then James Conner is on the IR with Nick Chubb. He'll get back next year. And we talked about all the draft picks he has. This is a startup from this year. JT's in this league. This is Nick Scripps' team. So with this team here that we're there we go. With this team here, what do you guys see? This is a brand new startup league. He made a couple trades. Mm-hmm. What are you doing with this team? Because it doesn't seem. I'm in this league also, and I just punted. I drafted like shit. And now I regret punting because I think the team I drafted originally just to go for a quarterback. I wish I would have just kept my team together to begin with, because I probably would be like in a fourth or fifth place team right now. But I blew it all up. I got a couple first round draft picks, and I'm going to live and learn. My next startup, I'm going to just kind of hold a little bit longer. But how does this team stack with you guys? Brand new first year startup, already in this situation. What do you think?
I'm going to let Bruce jump in since I'm in this league and I also have a terrible team like you, John. I'm going to let Bruce decide what he kind of thinks before I jump in and throw my 2 cents, especially since I just lost this team like a week ago.
What I like about this team is it's got a lot of depth at wide receiver. I like having depth at wide receiver, and it's a lot of guys you can play the matchups with. A lot of guys getting targets and a lot of guys getting opportunities where you can just look at the over-unders and the game scripts and just try to make your best educated guess. We got Deshaun Watson, we got Jalen Hurts at quarterback, and then we got some other quarterbacks there. So you look okay at quarterback. When I look at the running backs, though, you can tell that's the problem area of the team. And the liquidity there at running back right now with Nick Chubb's being on IR, and you're going to want him to come back next year, and you're not going to sell him now because his value is not up. You got James Conner too. He's probably going to be back here in a few weeks, hopefully, maybe not. Depends if he wants to quit the rest of the season or not. We'll have to see. But if his value shoots back up, you may want to see where you're at. Is there a trade deadline in this league? If there's not, then maybe you can capitalize on that opportunity. You got Zeke and Gus. I mean, those guys aren't going to carry you to a ship or anything. So you don't have much, there's not much trade value there with them anyways, but maybe you can look at something and maybe you can rock some lower level running backs or something, play with your wide receivers. But if you're at 2 and 3, if things start going south, you're really going to wish you're going to deal away some of those lower level running backs. You also got some older receivers here with Tyler Lockett, maybe Calvin Ridley. I like Ridley's situation. Lockett, I like his upside, but again, if you're going to end up being 2-4 and 2-5, and things are going to start going lower there, you may want to look at doing the deal there. There's a lot of opportunity to go either way here, especially with some of these players. But one thing I do like is the depth at wide receiver. You can do a lot with that.
Yeah, I agree with Bruce here. Like the running backs, because Chubb and Connor are hurt, I think it just kills this team. I think this team's got enough to kind of compete, but if those guys hurt, I think he's done. And so for me at this point, I think this team's got enough young guys to kind of hold and kind of build for the future. So if I'm moving people, I'm looking at maybe like Darren Waller, Tyler Lockett. Can I maybe move those guys? Is somebody desperate at QB where I could give them a Minshew for a draft pick? Maybe I could get a second or a third for Minshew if somebody's desperate. Because, I like Watson to go with Hurts. I like the wide receivers. Ridley, Flowers, Judy is a great, and Higgins is a great setup there. I just don't think this team has enough to win this year, but I think they've got, nice, solid base, Everett, Higbee, Collins, and some of these older running backs. So to me, I'm not blowing it up altogether because I think I have a decent chance in the future, but I'm maybe moving a couple of the older assets. If I can maybe trade Minshew, Lockett, Waller, and get some guys next year to where hopefully my team's healthy again, and maybe with a healthy Connor, healthy Chubb, I can maybe move them at the beginning of the year, or if they're crushing it, I compete next year. I don't think this team's a wasteland by any means. I think they've got a shot. It's just I feel like this team's probably not going to win this year. So I'm figuring out how I can build towards next year.
Yeah, I'm trying to get rid of Waller. This is like a carnival to me. As soon as every one of them pops up, has a good week, I'm just going to boom, send them out, trade them away for draft picks. Or if something happens where Clayton Tune gets a start or anybody needs a quarterback in the bye weeks, or if something happens, like I'm going to probably keep Nico Collins. And I don't know about Jerry Jeudy's future. That's somebody I think I don't know what. I think we've seen Jerry Jeudy enough to know that, I don't think he's going to pan out the way that everybody thinks he, hope to. But anyway, I'm keeping T. Higgins. I'm keeping Zay Flowers. I'm probably keeping Nico Collins. I think he's just finally starting to reach his peak. I'd probably trade away Calvin Ridley. Elijah Moore, he's probably a hold right now, so you're not going to get shit for him. Tyler Lockett's somebody I'd probably trade away because of his age and just because JSN's on the way up. DJ Chark's, get rid of him. Zay Hodgins, same thing. Miko Hardman, those are both wasted players. But your running back, the running back core here is just I think Chubb only tore his. Well, they did find out he tore a little bit of his ACL too, right? It wasn't just his MCL, so he needed surgery for that. Edwards, Zeke is probably Zeke's last year in the league. Fournette, we all talked about dirt. Raheem Blackshear is a great name to throw around fantasy football, but not really a good producer. To have your team with possibly Nick Chubb coming back halfway through next year, James Conner, he's already 30 years old. Who knows what's going to happen with him? Tank Bigsby being your lead running back. He doesn't have a second-round pick next year. I would try to trade some of these guys away for second, third-round picks and just kind of build for the future. But I would wait until they had a good week and then do it, or wait till the offseason and see what you can get. But you don't want to wait too long. I'd get rid of Waller as soon as possible. Why he has a hot game, that kind of. He's my first one to go. I'm not a big Waller fan to begin with, but and then Gerald Everett, if he has a good game, bye. Tyler Higbee, same thing, bye. And Ridley, if he has another breakout game, get rid of him. I would just start selling the farm on this kind of stuff and start rebuilding around the quality receivers I do have on my team right now. And like Jalen Hurts he's a set it and forget it. Deshaun Watson, hopefully he returns to form. If not, he'll be a mid. He's probably a great quarterback too for a team anyway for a long time. He's locked into a guaranteed contract for the next 72 years, so he ain't going nowhere. But if any of the other guys get a starting job, if something happened to Hurts for a week, I'd probably get rid of Mariota or something like that, or I don't know what Trevor Siemian's even on his team for. But that's I'm in to trade my assets away all the time. I love trading. I'm not a big draft pick guy, but for this team, I think he needs he's not going to win this year. He's not even in the middle of the road. I think he's right behind the middle of the road, kind of, so he's probably making the playoffs in a dynasty league or any league for that matter. Just making the playoffs and having a shot at being lucky is half the battle. But I just don't see this guy having a road to actually making the playoffs.
So Nick tried to trade me Nick Chubb earlier today for Najee Harris, and I was just like, I just won last week for the first time in this league. I've just been murderous. I'm like trying to get early picks. I drafted really, really young in this league, knowing that I probably wasn't going to compete year one. So it wasn't a bad offer. It's just that wasn't going to be for me. I want the young guy that's healthy, especially when I'm rebuilding. So if he could maybe look at someone else to trade Chubb to, obviously the hard part is he's hurt. You're going to need someone that's going to need him next year. So for me, I'm like, I'm not going to take, a 28-year-old running back for Najee, especially when my team's young. So that's where he's kind of stuck at right now. If Connor can come back from injury and start hitting, I think that's his first move, is trade Connor to somebody who needs like a little bit of running back help down the stretch. But for me, I'm not going to move my guys because I already know I'm bottom half of the league. I'm looking to get the highest draft picks I can. I like my team, but I'm just super young. Yeah. So I just know that I'm a slow build.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks very much for you guys. This is what we do every week. This is the Commissioner Evaluation Show. Thanks for listening. This will be out on all the Apple and Google and everything. And just, we're on the Fantrax network now. I just want to put a word in for Fantrax. Me and JT are in a Fantrax hockey league. They have golf. They have auto racing. They have all kind of league setups for, I almost said basketball, baseball, football. If you have not looked into a Fantrax league yet, please do yourself a favor. Log into Fantrax, start a league there. Just get used to it. Get used to the settings. It takes a year or two for any new host site to kind of get used to. But Fantrax does have a lot of good settings. JT, we just saw the draft for our hockey draft. How smooth that was compared to some other leagues. So using Fantrax was surprisingly nice for me. Especially because I hear a lot of people are like, oh, I can't do Fantrax. I'm on Sleeper, or I'm an NFL guy, or I'm so and so. Look into Fantrax if you haven't yet, and especially because the Devy leagues we're in. They're all on Fantrax, or most of them are on Fantrax anyway. So, Devy Leagues, Fantrax is fantastic.
Yeah, all our C2C, all our Devy Leagues, our CFF leagues for college football. If you're a college football guy, I'm on like 3 or 4 leagues on Fantrax. Is the only spot you can play college football at. So, Fantrax is great for that. Like I said, we moved all our hockey leagues over to Fantrax. It's been a great move. Just the customability for everything has been 10 times better on Fantrax. So it's been great. We're a couple weeks into our hockey season. I beat John week 1 head to head. Got you. But if you're into that, look into hockey, look into baseball, football, especially college football. Only place you can do it. So definitely check that out.
Yes. All right. So JT, you want to tell everybody where they can find you at on the Twitter machine and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, but hit me on X at JT Orange. If you're into IDP, I do an IDP article on Fantrax every Wednesday. Waiver wire pickups, breakout guys. If you also are in IDP, check me out on DLF. I do rankings for IDP on there, so you can see my top 150 over there. And then you can always check out my show, The Stew with JT Brew, on Dynasty Pros Football Channel. I do my college betting show, my NFL betting show, and all that stuff over there.
Bruce, tell us where they can find you.
All right. It's been a pleasure, guys. You guys can find me on Twitter at Metric Scout. You can also find me on my YouTube channel. You'll find it on the Twitter, but you search Bruce Matson. I think you'll probably run into it. You're going to find 3 to 5 videos a day on there. Over at Dynasty League Football, you'll catch my rankings for, I think, Devy, and I think even a top 200 or something. And then I'm also pumping out a Devy article once a month. Right now, and then off season, it's all kinds of stuff.
Fantastic. I am John McGlynn. You can find me on Twitter, on X, at John McGlynn 75. I'm always on there, kind of yapping, just kind of speaking my mind. I'm on here. I do football reviews for my home leagues during the week. I put them on my Twitter page too, just kind of get an idea to do stuff for your home leagues. I love being a commissioner. The Commissioner Evaluation Show is not just about commissioner stuff, but it does touch on some commissioner things that you can get some ideas for your leagues. But thanks for watching, everybody. And have a great weekend, and good luck this week with all the bye weeks. You're going to need it. Bye, everyone.
McGlynn is in. I repeat, McGlynn is in. Let the fun begin. This is the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with your host, John McGlynn.
Is that Herms?
He got them guests on the Rolodex, stopping by to talk about some Dynasty Superflex. Everybody, yo, commish is in. It's time to sit down to listen to John McGlynn. Yo, who we trading, who we fading, who we getting off the squad. Knowledge never overrated, playing for number one. And yo, McGlynn is in. It's time to let the fun begin. It's the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with John McGlynn.